It's 9:30 p.m. on a Sunday night. You're in bed, trying to unwind for the week ahead, when your phone buzzes. It's a push notification from your neighborhood next door app, or maybe that local suburban WhatsApp group. You tap it. There it is, a picture posted by one of the local couples. They're standing in a freshly paved driveway in a quiet New Jersey suburb, smiling in front of a brand new metallic gray 2026 luxury electric SUV. In the background, through the massive bay windows, you can catch a glimpse of a kitchen renovation that easily cost more than a year of median wages. Within minutes, the comments flood in. "Congratulations! Stunning! You guys are absolutely killing it." On the surface, it looks like the ultimate portrait of a rival, the textbook definition of winning by age 40. But behind the screens, looking at that exact same post, a dozen other people in that group suddenly feel a knot tighten in their stomachs, a quiet, suffocating wave of anxiety. They start running the mental math on their own lives, wondering where they went wrong. But here is the brutal, mathematical truth that the algorithm doesn't want you to know. Last week, a single photo on a New Jersey community group kept hundreds of people awake. A new 2026 EV, a flawless suburban home. Society calls this success at 40, but the scoreboard is rigged. 80% of the people who look like they are winning are actually carrying massive phantom assets that are quietly eating their future alive. You aren't falling behind because you're lazy. You are falling behind because you are draining your wealth to buy things that prove you have it. This video is not another generic lecture telling you to stop buying lattes or to clip coupons. We are going to completely dismantle the American suburban dream and expose the 5 phantom assets that are destroying your financial freedom. Welcome to the reverse financial scoreboard. Let's look at what the numbers actually say when you strip away the ego. Let's define our enemy. What exactly is a phantom asset? In the Western world, it's a liability brilliantly marketed as a sign of wealth. It's an expense that requires you to keep bleeding cash just to maintain the illusion that you own it. By age 40, most middle-class households are drowning in 3 specific ones. The first phantom asset is the oversized suburban house. For decades, we've been told that buying a home is the ultimate wealth builder. But in 2026, the math on this has turned toxic. If you locked in a massive mortgage recently, you are staring down interest rates averaging around 6.10%. On a $600,000 suburban home, that isn't just a monthly payment, that is a relentless transfer of wealth from your pocket straight to the bank. And it doesn't stop there. Property taxes are creeping up, homeowners' insurance premiums are skyrocketing due to climate risks, and then there are the utilities to heat and cool rooms you don't even use. Your home isn't an asset if it prevents you from investing in anything else. It's a gold-plated anchor keeping you stuck at your desk. The second phantom asset is the leased luxury EV or SUV parked in that driveway. Look around any nice neighborhood in America or Europe right now. It is a sea of fresh leases. A fixed monthly payment of $800 to $1,200 has become completely normalized. We tell ourselves it's just a monthly cost of doing business, or we justify it because it saves money on gas. But the reality, that lease payment is a massive, permanent financial obligation that never ends, because the moment the 36 months are up, the temptation to roll into the next shiny model is almost impossible to resist. You don't own the car. The car owns a piece of your paycheck month after month during the peak earning decade of your life. The third phantom asset is the one hiding in your desk drawer, whole life insurance. This is the product financial salespeople aggressively pushed on you in your 20s or 30s. They called it a forced savings account and a tax-sheltered investment wrapper. But when you actually peel back the layers at age 40, you discover the brutal truth. The fees are astronomical. The returns pale in comparison to a basic low-cost index fund. In fact, the premiums are often 5 times more expensive than a standard term life policy for the exact same amount of actual death benefit coverage. You aren't building a legacy with a whole life policy, you are funding the commission of the person who sold it to you. Western society has perfectly engineered us to stack these objects to prove our status. We look at a family earning a great household income, let's say $150,000 a year before taxes, and we assume they're safe. But let's run the honest, raw numbers for 2026.
Take that $150,000 baseline. Subtract federal, state, and local taxes. Now subtract that 6.10% mortgage payment. Add the $1,000 a month lease on the SUV. Throw in the bloated whole life insurance premiums, high-interest lifestyle debt, skyrocketing grocery bills, and energy costs. What is left? Nothing. When you carry these 3 phantom assets simultaneously, the actual net worth of an affluent-looking family tanks straight toward the danger zone. After accounting for real-world inflation, their savings rate drops to 0. They are one corporate restructuring or one medical emergency away from total collapse. This brings us to a profound truth about how wealth actually works. The Western world teaches us to measure success by what we can display, but as the author Morgan Housel brilliantly points out, true wealth is actually what you don't see. It's the expensive cars not purchased, the oversized mansions turned down, the premium upgrades rejected. A massive house and a leased luxury car don't tell you how wealthy someone is. They only tell you exactly how much money that person has spent. They don't tell you how much money they have left. So if looking rich is a trap that leaves your net worth exposed, how do you pivot? How do you transition from the illusion of wealth to actual financial freedom? That requires shifting from consumer traps to investment engines. Which brings us straight to the next 2 phantom assets hidden in your portfolio. Teaser alert, the next one is a trap that well-meaning parents fall into every single year. That brings us directly to the 4th phantom asset on our reverse scoreboard. It is perhaps the most emotionally painful one to dissect because it comes from a place of pure love. It's what I call the martyr parent trap. By the time you hit 40, your kids are growing up. College is no longer a distant concept, it's an impending deadline. So, well-meaning parents across the US and Europe start aggressively funneling every spare dollar into 529 plans or specialized savings accounts. They look at elite private university tuitions and panic. They prioritize their children's future credentials over everything else, all while their own retirement accounts sit dangerously empty. It feels like the right thing to do. It feels like good parenting. But from a cold, analytical perspective, it is a catastrophic structural error. Here is the brutal twist you need to hear, and I want you to memorize this sentence. Your child can borrow money to go to college, but absolutely no bank on earth will loan you money to retire. When you drain your peak earning years to fund an overpriced degree, you aren't actually helping your kids. You are just shifting the financial crisis down the timeline. By making yourself financially vulnerable at age 40, you are almost guaranteeing that you will become your children's biggest financial burden when you turn 70. True generational wealth isn't a paid-in-full Ivy League diploma. It is ensuring your adult children never have to pause their own lives to financially support their aging parents. The 5th and final phantom asset hiding on our scoreboard is the active trading account, the Robinhood or Coinbase accounts sitting on your phone right now. In your 20s, day trading or chasing the latest crypto pump was a hobby. By age 40, people often rebrand this as active portfolio management. You look at your phone throughout the day, checking charts, buying dips, selling highs, convinced that you are an investor. You feel a rush of dopamine when a position goes up by 20%. But let's stop pretending. You are not an investor. You are a gambler with an internet connection. The data on this is completely ironclad. Over a 10-year period, more than 90% of professional institutional fund managers fail to beat a simple, boring S&P 500 index fund. If the smartest minds on Wall Street, with supercomputers and insider networks, cannot consistently win this game, what makes you think you can do it while sitting in a middle management meeting or waiting in the drive-through line? Every time you trade actively, you are bleeding money to transaction fees, widening spreads, and short-term capital gains taxes. You are burning your most precious resource, your focus, on a zero-sum game. Look at the contrast here. On one side, you have the leveraged rich. They live in the oversized suburban house, they drive the leased 2026 EV, they hold expensive whole-life policies, drain their cash into elite tuition funds, and try to trade their way to wealth on their phones. They look wealthy, they look successful. But on paper, their net worth is a hollow shell held together by pure stress. On the other side, you have the unseen wealthy. They drive a 5-year-old car that is completely paid off. They live in a house that fits their actual needs, not their ego. They don't active trade, and they don't treat college as a status symbol. They look ordinary, but their net worth is compounding silently in low-cost index funds, completely out of sight. They don't have the applause of the neighborhood group chat, but they have something infinitely better: absolute control over their time. So, how do we stop playing the rigged game? How do we take these 5 phantom assets and turn them into real, unshakable wealth?
To do that, we have to transition from a mindset of showing wealth to a rigid system of building it. We need an audit. And that is exactly what we are going to build right now in our final playbook. Welcome to the Asset Audit Playbook. This is where we stop admiring the problem and start fixing it. At age 40, you do not have the luxury of time to try a dozen different tattered financial tips. You cannot afford to multitask. What you need is a hyper-focused, strict financial order of operations, a step-by-step combat strategy to permanently wipe out those phantom assets. We have broken this down into 3 distinct sequential campaigns. You do not move to the next one until the current one is fully secured. Campaign number 1. Put out the leverage fire. Right now, your absolute priority is eliminating any toxic, high-interest debt dragging your net worth into the dirt. We are talking about any interest rate north of 8%. Credit cards, personal loans, or high-rate auto financing. Call your lenders, negotiate, consolidate if you have to, but more importantly, freeze the credit cards. Literally cut them up or lock them out of your digital wallets. You cannot run forward if you are still bleeding out from old wounds. Simultaneously, take a hard look at where your baseline cash is sitting. Millions of professionals leave their emergency cash sitting in traditional brick-and-mortar bank accounts, earning a pathetic 0.01% interest. In 2026, that is financial self-sabotage. Move your cash into a high-yield savings account. With current yields hovering between 4 and 5% APY, your capital will finally start fighting back against inflation completely risk-free. Secure your table stakes first. Once the fire is out, you immediately transition to campaign number 2, automate the wealth engine. This is where we take inspiration from Ramit Sethi's philosophy of focusing entirely on big wins rather than agonizing over small expenses. The biggest win of your 40s is removing human psychology from your investing process. If you have to make a conscious decision to save money every single month, you will eventually fail. The ego will always find an excuse: a vacation, a home repair, a tech upgrade. Go into your payroll system tomorrow morning and automate your contributions. Set it up so that your workplace 401k or employer-sponsored retirement account is automatically maxed out or at least funded to the absolute limit of the employer match before a single dollar hits your main checking account. Next, take your hand off the active trading wheel. Delete the speculative trading apps off your phone. Take whatever funds you were gambling with on single stocks or volatile crypto assets and dump them into broad market, low-cost index funds like an S&P 500 tracking fund or a total world asset fund. Set up a recurring monthly transfer, close the tab, and let the mathematics of compounding interest do the heavy lifting in total silence. Finally, you close the loop with campaign number 3, lock down the defensive shields. Building wealth is completely pointless if a single unexpected life event can wipe out your entire portfolio overnight. We need to restructure your defense. If you are stuck holding one of those expensive, bloated whole life insurance policies we dismantled earlier, it is time to pivot. Look into replacing it with a clean, low-cost term life insurance policy that covers your peak liability years and redirect the massive premium savings straight into a tax-advantaged vehicle like a Roth IRA. This instantly optimizes your future tax burden while keeping your family fully protected. The last step of this defensive shield is the one most 40-year-olds actively avoid because it makes them uncomfortable: estate planning. You do not need an overpriced estate attorney to get started. Use an online estate planning platform to draft a basic, legally binding will and medical directive. It takes less than an hour, but it ensures that your growing net worth is fully insulated and will go exactly where you intend if the worst should happen. Look at what happens when you execute these 3 campaigns in exact order. You transition from a chaotic financial lifestyle designed to impress outsiders to a bulletproof, automated wealth machine designed to buy back your freedom. You stop playing defense against your own lifestyle inflation and you start playing offense with your actual cash flow. But clearing the phantom assets off your scoreboard is only half the battle. True victory requires a permanent shift in how you define a successful life as you head toward your 50s. And that brings us to the final mirror we need to look into before turning off the screen. Now, let's go back to where we started. It's still Sunday night in that quiet New Jersey suburb. Your phone screen finally goes dark. The neighborhood group chat falls silent. The glowing notifications of other people's lavish upgrades vanish into the black glass. The room is quiet. For the first time in a long time, the knot in your stomach begins to loosen. Why? Because you finally see the game for what it actually is. You realize that the shiny lifestyle keeping everyone else awake at night is just a beautifully packaged trap. You don't need to compete with a mirage. If you just went through this reverse scoreboard and realized you are holding way too many phantom assets, do not panic. Catching up at age 40 is completely possible, but it requires strategy, not desperation. Your first move isn't to list your house on the market tomorrow morning. Your first move is to master how real, tax-advantaged money flows. To help you secure that baseline immediately, I have pinned a comprehensive masterclass at the very top of this channel. It breaks down the exact mechanics of asset allocation, compound interest curves, and tax optimization for the current 2026 landscape. Watch that video right now before you sign your name on another monthly payment or installment bill. True financial freedom isn't about living a life of miserable deprivation. It's about cutting your ego spending to zero so you can fund a life of absolute autonomy. It's having the power to say no to things that drain you. Remember this: mathematics is incredibly forgiving if you start today, but time is absolutely ruthless. Choose the calculator. Stop chasing the glitz. See you in the next video.